No one is a unicorn. You are all replaceable, she announced after firing me at the all-hands meeting. In the audience, the buyer for our pending $400 million acquisition just closed his binder, stood up and asked if I had a moment to talk. Her face went white. It was a Thursday, because of course it was. Thursdays are the corporate equivalent of a middle finger. I just sat down with my sad little cup of break room coffee, the kind that tastes like betrayal and cardboard, when Marla, the freshly imported COO with a buzz cut and a god complex, hopped on stage like she was hosting the Hunger Games. No agenda, no preamble, just a tight smile, and her signature, "I ate empathy for breakfast" vibe, and she said it. Effective immediately, Todd's position is being eliminated. No one is a unicorn. You are all replaceable. Boom. Like that. 12 years. 12 damn years of building systems from duct tape and hope, of saving client accounts from the jaws of our own incompetence. Gone with one sentence, delivered like she was announcing the soup of the day. Now, you'd think the silence afterward would have come from shock. But nah, it was that corporate kind of silence. People are afraid to even breathe wrong in case they're next. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just felt my spine stiffen into steel. That was the moment something cracked. Not in me, but around me. You ever hear the kind of quiet that hurts? That's when I saw him. In the third row, in a bland-ass gray suit, sat Aaron from the acquisition team. The acquirer, the one about to drop $400 million on the circus tent. He wasn't clapping. He wasn't smirking. He was staring at Marla like she'd just pissed on his mother's grave. Then he did the most beautiful thing I'd seen all week. He closed his leather binder. Slowly, deliberately, like it was a goddamn guillotine. Listen, real quick, before we go any further, if you're enjoying this train wreck, and let's be honest, we all slow down to watch the crash, do me a solid, hit that like button and subscribe. Seriously, 97% of you ghosts keep coming back without subscribing. It's free, and it keeps our crew fueled with caffeine and petty vengeance. Plus, it lets us keep bringing you the kind of stories that HR departments pray never go public. Now back to the bloodbath. I didn't flinch, didn't speak, just calmly stood up, buttoned my jacket, and nodded like I'd just been handed a slice of mediocre sheet cake. Arla gave me this smug look like she expected me to crumble, cry, or offer her a tearful thank you card. What she got was my slow, quiet walk to the exit, while 200 employees stared at the floor like it might save them. But I didn't leave the building. Oh no. I walked past reception, past the HR goblins whispering near the copier, and ducked into the small side lounge where the real work got done. One with the burnt microwave popcorn smell and the broken ice machine that coughed like a smoker. That's where Aaron found me 5 minutes later, his tie already loosened like he knew what was coming. "Got a minute?" he asked. I sipped my coffee, still bitter, still weak, and gestured to the cracked vinyl couch like I owned it. He sat, quiet for a second. Then, "Did she just fire the only person who understands how your systems map to our integration plan?" I shrugged. "Looks that way." He exhaled through his nose. "Jesus, I get that a lot. That was the real start of it. Not the firing, not the binder close. This was the moment the tables didn't just turn, they spun like a damn roulette wheel, and for once I wasn't the poor bastard betting on black." He leaned forward. "Off the record, I need to know how deep your involvement goes. Can we talk?" I looked at the man. Calm. Ice in my blood now. "You want the truth, the version Marla gave legal." "Start with the truth." And so I did. And somewhere, probably still basking in her little public execution stunt, Marla had no clue that the same man she thought was a background extra had just started rewriting my future without her in it. The all-hands meeting disbanded like someone had dropped a smoke bomb. Everyone scattering, whispering, avoiding eye contact like the floor might call them up next. I stayed in the lounge, letting the artificial fireplace flicker against my blank expression. My heart wasn't pounding. It was steady, surgical. 12 years of juggling flaming project timelines and glitchy vendor contracts will either break you or make you dangerous. I chose the second option. That's when I felt a presence near the door. I looked up, and there he was, Aaron from the acquisition team. No more poker face. Just that grim, determined expression corporate guys get when they realize someone just took a dump in their sandbox. "You got a minute?" he asked again. This time quieter, sharper. I nodded, pushed the empty coffee cup aside. "Always." He shut the door gently, like this was a confessional booth, and sat across from me. No clipboard, no laptop, just two hands steepled together like he was trying to hold the entire company's fate between his thumbs. "I want to level with you," he said. "We're told this was just a meet and greet, but that's not why I'm here." I raised an eyebrow. "No," he shook his head. "I've been quietly auditing your systems, speaking with a few of your major clients, getting a sense of actual operational exposure. You've been the primary name on every mission-critical process I've flagged. Compliance, customer retention, data integration, vendor management, your initials are on everything." I leaned back, resting one ankle over my knee like I wasn't mentally spray painting Marla's career ends here across my frontal lobe. "That's surprising," I said. "Lying beautifully. I always thought I was just a cog in the machine. He smirked. You're the blueprint. We sat there in the heavy silence of mutual understanding. In the distance, I heard the faint clack of Marla's heels pacing the corridor like a hyena looking for a camera. My phone buzzed, Char asking if I'd like an exit interview. I silenced it. Aaron leaned in. Look, between us, if you're not part of the deal, we may have to walk. That made me sit forward, not surprised, just calculating. That's serious? He nodded. We can't inherit a black box. The due diligence report was predicated on your transition plan. No plan, no deal. Outside the glass window, Marla hovered like a ghost with a blowout. She tried to look busy, typing nothing into her phone, pretending she wasn't watching us through the reflection like a kid with her nose pressed to the candy shop. Aaron noticed her too. His eyes narrowed. Did she really think firing you publicly was a good move? I gave a half smile. Marla's the kind of leader who thinks a chainsaw is a management style. He chuckled, genuinely, and rubbed his eyes like he was aging in real time. Jesus, this is a mess. No, I said, standing slowly. It's an opportunity. He stood with me. We shook hands, not with desperation, but mutual clarity. He paused at the door. I'll be in touch soon. Let me talk to my team. I nodded. I'll be around. I don't leave in a rush when I'm the one holding the blueprints. He opened the door and walked out just as Marla came strutting down the hall like she'd just gotten off a call with Oprah. She smiled too wide, like someone trying to cover a corpse with glitter. Todd, mind if we chat real quick? Her voice had that manufactured sweetness you only hear from people who sign their emails with cheers and threaten layoffs before Christmas. I didn't stop walking. Bit busy. Marla, catch you later. She blinked, gears turning behind her eyes. That smile wavered, just a twitch, like her buttocks flinched. I passed her without looking back, but I could feel her unraveling. Every step I took felt like a thread pulled from the hem of her carefully curated career. She still thought she'd won. She hadn't read the fine print yet. We met the next morning at a little coffee shop 3 blocks from HQ. The kind of place that charges $5 for a drip and has baristas with sleeve tattoos who look like they moonlight as bassists in a Rage Against the Machine cover band. Aaron was already at a corner table, sleeves rolled up, phone face down. Alone told me he was serious. These eminent types usually treat their phones like Roman for drips. Thanks for coming, he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. No problem, I said, setting my coffee down. I'm between careers. He gave a dry chuckle, but it didn't touch his eyes. He was tired, I could tell. Not from jet lag. This was strategic fatigue, the kind that comes from watching a $1 million machine get handed over to a toddler with a hacksaw. I want to understand exactly what your responsibilities were, he said, flipping open a small notebook, old school. And I mean specifics. So I laid it out, clean and slow. No embellishment, just facts. I handled the top 5 client accounts personally. Not just check-ins, renewals, escalations, VIP onboarding. They all had my cell number. He nodded, scribbling. I built the data integration framework you're inheriting. API pipelines, migration templates, legacy compatibility. It wasn't plug and play when I got here. It was duct tape and crossed fingers. Another scribble. I also implemented the compliance roadmap for your audit standards. SOC 2, GDPR overlap, internal and FOSIC workflows signed off on the last 2 external audits. I'm listed as the point of contact in the formal documentation your legal team already reviewed. That's when the pen paused mid-word. He looked up, jaw tight. And how many others have access to these systems? I sipped my coffee. Technically, a few people have view-only dashboards but edit access. Admin-level permissions, just me. His nostrils flared slightly. So if something broke right now, client workflow, system failure, compliance flag, who could fix it? I tilted my head, feigning thought. I mean, I could text Marla a YouTube tutorial, but short of that, no one. He sat back, silent. His fingers tapped the table for a moment, like he was counting imaginary red flags. Unbelievable, he muttered. And she just fired you. In public. She did. He let out a quiet, exasperated laugh. This isn't just mismanagement. This is lighting the blueprint on fire during the home inspection. I stayed quiet, letting that hang. You don't gloat in moments like this. You let the weight of it settle in their bones. You understand, he said, voice low. We cannot finalize this acquisition with that level of exposure. If the systems you built are single-threaded through you, they are, then firing you has effectively torched the deal. I shrugged. I figured as much. He leaned forward. Why didn't you say anything yesterday? Because panic stinks, Aaron, and I don't like the smell of desperation on myself. He nodded, slowly, with new respect. We sat in silence for a minute, only sound the hiss of the espresso machine and the faint jazz from overhead. Then he said, almost to himself, Jesus Christ, she was supposed to be a stabilizing force. Marla, I laughed. Marla thinks leadership is about proving she's the smartest one in the room. Problem is, she walked into a room where people already built the damn thing. He grinned at that, but his face stayed tight. He was thinking now, really thinking, not just about me, but about the implications. How many client relationships would unravel if I disappeared? How many compliance issues would rise from the grave without my hand on the wheel? How much of their $400 million valuation rested on a person Marla had just turned into a loose end? I want to make something clear, he said finally. We don't want a hostile environment, but we do need stability and continuity. I nodded. You're thinking transition plan. I'm thinking leverage for both of us. I didn't smile. I just leaned back in my chair and let the moment bloom between us. That's when I knew Marla hadn't just screwed up. She'd removed the one person who made her look competent by comparison. And that kind of mistake, it comes with a cost. By 1:15 p.m., the storm clouds started forming. Aaron canceled his back-to-back with Marla's department heads. Not rescheduled, canceled. Could practically hear the oxygen get sucked out of the executive floor. I know because I was sitting 2 levels below, sipping on a Fresca from the vending machine like I was watching a slow-motion car wreck through security footage. Around 2:03, my phone buzzed. Marla, mobile. Can we have a quick clarifying conversation? Clarifying conversation. That's HR code for I didn't expect consequences. And now I need you to pretend the knife in your back is a friendly handshake. I stared at the message long enough for my Fresca to go warm. Then I typed back, appreciate the outreach, but I don't believe that's necessary. Read receipt hit instantly. No reply. Now, this is where it gets fun, because Marla doesn't operate like a normal human. Marla operates like a Roomba possessed by the ghost of a disgraced sorority president. When things don't go her way, she doesn't adapt. She doubles down. So while she was scrambling to figure out how the acquisition guy she tried to impress had gone radio silent, I was calmly scheduling a call with Aaron's legal team. Different energy. 10 minutes after I sent my reply, I got a Slack ping from one of the few real ones left in finance. Jamie? Word is she was banking on that acquisition bonus. Like 6 figures. Deal falls through. She gets silch. I sat back, letting that settle in. That's when the picture snapped into focus. The whole performance during the all-hands, the dramatic "you are all replaceable" line wasn't about leadership. It was theater. She needed a show of force to look decisive in front of the acquisition team. Problem was, she fired the lighting guy mid-play, and now the stage was pitch black. Another Slack popped up. Jamie. She's got a 1-year clause in her contract. Acquisition closes. She gets paid. It falls through. She's just another angry PowerPoint. I smiled so hard I almost cracked a molar. Meanwhile, back at HQ, Marla was pacing the glass fishbowl of her corner office like a tiger in a too small cage. People noticed. Can't walk 5 miles in heels on polished concrete and not draw attention. Every exec she tried to dazzle that morning was now quietly avoiding eye contact. Some even started whispering about her behind closed doors. Soft voice speculations. Theories passed like contraband in email threads with vague subject lines like "quick note and circle back later." One of the department leads even walked past my desk and muttered, "Dude, what did you say to him?" I just shook my head. Didn't say anything, just told the truth. He raised an eyebrow like I'd admitted to witchcraft. At 4:42, I got another message from Marla, this time via email, subject line, follow-up transition support. I clicked mark as read and moved on. Here's the thing about panic, you can smell it. It seeps into the carpet, into the air vents, to the tone of every desperate message sent from someone who thought they were untouchable until the floor gave way. Marla had spent 2 weeks swinging her new COO title like a mace. She fired people without notice. She bulldozed process reviews. She interrupted department meetings with suggestions that sounded a lot like ultimatums. People put up with it because they thought the end goal, a cushy buyout, at a new parent company would smooth the edges. But now, Bayer wasn't returning her emails. Her executive presence had curdled into silence, and the one person who could explain how the entire system actually worked was ignoring her with the clinical indifference of a cat watching a vacuum cleaner. And the best part? She still thought this was salvageable. She hadn't realized yet, I wasn't her employee anymore. I was her consequence. Dinner was at some overpriced steakhouse downtown, the kind with dim lighting, leather booths, and a wine list longer than most corporate training manuals. I showed up in a plain button-down, no tie, sleeves rolled up. Let the suits play dress-up. I'd earned the right to be comfortable. Aaron was already there, flanked by 2 of his team members, one from legal, one from ops. All smiles, handshakes, subtle nods. They weren't just courting me, they were vetting me again, but this time with the understanding that I was the missing puzzle piece, not a replaceable cog. Ordered drinks, bourbon, neat for me, and by the time the appetizers hit the table, the pleasantries were over. Aaron leaned in, voice low. I'm going to level with you. We've reviewed the integration framework. We know the dependencies. And frankly, we can't close without you. I didn't blink. Then don't close. The table went still for half a second, like I dropped a live grenade between the breadbasket and the butter dish. I wasn't bluffing. I just wasn't afraid of silence. Aaron cracked a small smile. That's not where we're headed. What we want is a bridge. He slid a thin folder across the table. Inside, 1 page. Clean, clear, and insulting in its simplicity. Idle consultant agreement term. 6 months rate. $40,000/month location. Remote/flexible scope. Transition support and operational advisory non-compete. Wived reporting to. Director of Operations acquiring company. I looked up. No equity clause. Already vesting, he said. Full acceleration based on your original terms. We've back-channeled with legal. I leaned back, letting the offer breathe. You're not just offering a band-aid, building a parachute. Aaron nodded. We're offering stability for both sides. You get to walk away with cash, clarity, and control. We get a deal that doesn't implode in 6 weeks. I took a sip of bourbon. Let it burn. Would I report to you? He shook his head. You'd report to us until the transition ends. After that, you're free. We don't expect more. The woman from legal chimed in. You'll have full authority to delegate tasks, define the timeline, and work asynchronously. Think of it as paid detachment. I stared at the paper. 40 grand a month. Remote. No hours. No Marla. You'd think I'd jump at it, but that's the thing about desperation. You don't show it when it's finally your turn to win. I tapped the paper with one finger. I want written guarantees of autonomy. I'm not logging into a single Slack channel where Marla exists. And I want full discretion on how knowledge transfer occurs. Aaron nodded. Done. I want my severance honored in full. The original package. No funny business. Ops guy scribbled something on a notepad. That's already in motion. We're wiring it ourselves. You'll have it before Monday. I looked around the table. 3 people staring at me. Not like I was a risk, but a requirement. And for the first time since the ambush at that all-hands meeting, I felt it settle in my chest. Not rage, not revenge. Relief. Arla had fired me to prove I was replaceable. These folks were offering me 240 grand to stay optional. I folded the agreement back into the folder and set it aside. I'll sleep on it, I said. Aaron smiled. Of course. But I think you already know. I did. I wasn't just choosing a paycheck. I was choosing who didn't get to be my boss anymore. It didn't take long for Marla to catch wind at the dinner. Word travels fast in offices where every wall's made of glass and paranoia is piped through the vents like lemon-scented air freshener. By mid-morning the next day, she was rattling around the C-suite like a blender full of screws. I was in the conference room on 12, casually reviewing a second draft of the consultant contract with one of the buyer's lawyers. This time, it added a clause explicitly preventing Marla from contacting me at all during the transition unless I initiated. It was written in legalese, sure, but the subtext was basically, you don't get to speak to him without his permission, ever. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee when the door opened like someone had kicked it. Marla, she came in fast, lips pressed thin, eyes already at a boil. No knock, no good morning. A storm cloud energy and $700 shoes that clicked like a countdown. Why are you meeting with our buyer's legal team without my approval? She snapped. I didn't even look up right away. Made a show of finishing my note in the margin. Then I folded the page neatly, set the pen down, and gave her a calm little half smile. Because I'm not your employee. That shut her up for half a second. Blinked like someone had just smacked her with a rolled-up NDA. Then, this is a violation of protocol. Of your protocol, I corrected. Which, again, no longer applies to me. The buyer's lawyer, Jessica, sharp as a blade and twice as cold, didn't even flinch. She just sipped her tea like she was watching a nature documentary. Predator meets a smarter predator. Marla looked between us, eyes narrowing. I need to be looped into these conversations. You were, Jessica said. Her tone dipped in polite venom. Before you terminated the person central to your own operations handoff, we're merely salvaging the situation. Marla turned her fury back on me, but there was something new in her expression now. It wasn't just anger. It was panic under a thin coat of control. She'd miscalculated, fired the wrong chess piece. Now she was scrambling to pretend the queen hadn't just walked off the board with her own game. Don't get to go around me, she hissed. I leaned back, laced my fingers behind my head. I didn't go around you. You opened the exit and held the door. She took a step closer. You think this makes you irreplaceable? No, I said, voice even. You already said I wasn't. I'm just here as a favor to them. Jessica nodded toward the folder in front of me. And that favor is being fairly compensated, I might add. Which reminds me, her severance package is being restructured. We'll have it ready by EOD. Marla's face twitched. Oh, I said, almost sweetly. Didn't HR loop you in? She didn't respond. Just stood there, frozen. Her face a war between fury and realization. She thought firing me made her look strong. But in doing so, she'd voided the one card she didn't even know she was holding. Me. And now, I was being reinserted into the deal. Just not by her. She turned on her heel and left the room without another word. The door clicked shut behind her, and Jessica looked up from the contract. Well, that was fun. I raised my mug. Cheers to poorly timed power moves. We both knew what was happening now. The acquisition wasn't on pause, it was evolving. The buyer didn't just want the company, they wanted control over who stayed and who got shown the door. And spoiler alert, that door was swinging back around for Marla. Friday morning, the board had scheduled a closed-door emergency session. Not a team sync or a Q3 pulse check, This was DEFCON 1 but with pastries. You could tell it was serious because they brought an external counsel. And they weren't using the good conference room on 14. They took the war room on 22, the one with the blackout blinds and the locked mini-fridge. Inside, Aaron laid it out, calm and surgical. "We're still prepared to proceed with the acquisition," he said, "but it's now contingent on one condition, retaining Todd under a separate contractual agreement. If he walks, so do we." Silence. Someone coughed into their sleeve. A director glanced sideways at Marla. Her face, composed but pinched around the eyes, didn't flinch. But her neck said everything. That little muscle just under her jaw was twitching like a dying fly. "The hell does that mean?" asked one of the VPs, trying to stay neutral but already reading the room. "He's been fired." Aaron shrugged. "Then so's the deal." The chair leaned forward. "Marla, were you aware of this dependency?" She cleared her throat. "The systems are documented. He's not a single point of failure." Aaron didn't raise his voice, didn't even break eye contact. "Your documentation references processes. He built them. You can't transfer ownership of something that's tied to his login credentials." Eagle nodded quietly beside him. The clause had already been drafted, and it was airtight. Either I was written back into the story, or they tore the book in half. By lunch, the messages started flying. Marla pinged me directly. "Can we revisit our prior conversation? I'd like to discuss the possibility of reinstatement." I didn't answer. Then an email. Subject: re-engagement opportunity. Tone: desperate corporate optimism with a hint of sweat. Offered me my old job. Same title. Slightly bumped salary. A chance to finish what you started. Finish what I started? Lady, I already finished it. You're just walking around in the ashes pretending the house still has a roof. I replied with one line: "Appreciate the offer, but I've accepted a more suitable arrangement." 5 minutes later, I signed the consultant contract with the buyer. Direct deposit kicked in before the ink was dry. First payment, $1,400,000. Everance bonus, already restructured and doubled. Stock options, vested. Access, full with autonomy. At 2:47 p.m., an internal memo went out to the board and C-suite. Per acquisition agreement, Todd will be retained as an external advisor to oversee transitional operations. Another memo followed at 3:10. Marla's bonus compensation structure will be revisited post-transition. Translation: no bonus for burning the barn down. I sat in my car outside the building, watching employees trickle out for late lunch. Marla passed through the front doors, face tight, phone glued to her ear. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and just couldn't figure out how the story flipped so fast. She tried to make me disappear. A clean break. A power move. But power moves don't work when the other player has the map, the keys, the backup of the entire system on a personal drive at home labeled "Don't Be Dumb V2. I didn't need revenge. I had the contract. The wire hit at 9:12 a.m. on Monday. I watched the notification pop up on my phone while sipping fresh coffee on the dock behind my lake house. Not a cabin. This was a fully insulated, high-speed internet, smart lock kind of retreat. I bought it 5 years ago thinking I might retire there someday. Turns out, someday had a funny way of arriving early when you got booted from your job by a woman who didn't understand version control or people. $240,000. Half up front, the rest in equal installments over 6 months. No commutes, no dress code, no Slack notifications pinging me like an ex with boundary issues. Just me, a laptop, a kayak, and a contract that spelled out every hour I was not required to be on call. Another ping, equity vesting confirmation. They'd accelerated my shares per the agreement. Full value, no clawbacks. The stock had spiked on acquisition rumors alone. Funny what confidence in leadership does to evaluation. By 11 a.m., it was official. Press release dropped. Acquisition finalized. Buyer to retain key operational advisor for strategic transition. They didn't name me directly, probably a favor from Aaron. But internally, everyone knew. Name was on every internal calendar invite tagged integration alignment. Except now, I wasn't listed as staff. I was consultant retained. Across town, in the boardroom with the frosted glass and sad muffins, Marla was apparently delivering her final report. Word got back to me through Jamie, who had zero loyalty to Marla and a love for office gossip, that she'd asked about her bonus disbursement. The chair had looked her dead in the face and said, "There's been a revision. No bonus, not delayed, erased." Apparently, she kept a straight face, nodded like it was fine, then spent 20 minutes after the meeting in the ladies' room stall with the door locked and her heels kicked off, crying, maybe, screaming into a coat sleeve, hopefully. I wasn't there to know, and that was the point. She didn't get the exit package. She didn't get the payout. She didn't even get a quote in the press release. I got something better than revenge. I got distance, closed my laptop, leaned back, and let the morning sun do its thing. There was a heron standing at the edge of the water, still as a statue, like even it knew this was sacred silence. I didn't gloat. I didn't text anyone a mic drop message. I just exhaled. 12 years of chaos, skipped vacations, and duct-taped diplomacy paid in full. 6 months of quiet consulting at my pace on my terms. Stability, freedom. The kind of victory that doesn't need applause. Just a good chair, a strong coffee, and a view that doesn't include Marla's smirk. They held the first joint meeting on a Thursday, full circle, poetic. It was a video call, 10 a.m. sharp, with about 40 faces lined up in stiff little Zoom boxes. The buyer's execs are department leads, legal integration heads, a few people I hadn't seen since before Marla installed herself like a firmware update no one asked for. Aaron opened it clean and corporate. Thank you all for joining. We're excited to begin this next chapter. As part of our commitment to stability during the transition, I'd like to introduce someone who will be critical to our operational continuity. He paused just long enough for people to glance at each other. Our retained expert, Todd, who many of you already know. I unmuted. Morning, everyone. A few nods, a few smiles. One guy from security actually gave a thumbs up, which I appreciated. Nobody clapped. It wasn't that kind of meeting, but you could feel the shift. They weren't surprised. They were relieved. I wasn't just back. I was back on my terms. Marla wasn't there. No little digital rectangle labeled COO. No frozen expression pretending to be intrigued. Someone asked quietly in the chat if she'd be joining. No one answered. By lunch, Mur had a name, Exploring Opportunities Elsewhere, which, in corporate HR speak, roughly translates to, got escorted out with a manila envelope and a box of sadness. She never even got to update her LinkedIn bio with the word successful. I spent the rest of the call listening, offering insight only when needed, watching department heads finally breathe without flinching. They weren't tiptoeing anymore. They were recalibrating. I wasn't interested in micromanaging. I was there to make sure the plane landed with no more turbulence, and then take the golden parachute and float into the horizon. After we wrapped, I logged out, shut the laptop, and stepped onto the deck. The lake was flat as glass, morning mist just starting to lift. My tablet buzzed next to my coffee, a push notification from one of the business blogs. Acquisition finalized. Strategic transition led by internal systems architect. I tapped it open. Oh, mention of Marla. But 3 paragraphs in, there was my name. Quiet, professional, unbothered. According to sources, the transition is being overseen by the company's longtime architect of operations, who was retained under independent contract for continuity and advisement. Not flashy. Not loud. Just a line that said he mattered. I took a sip of coffee. Not the burnt sludge from the office kitchen. Real beans, French press, steam curling in the morning light. No fireworks. No revenge speech. Just peace. And the kind of silence you get when the noise finally leaves the building.